As we remember my dear father Zatzal, Harini Kabrat Mishkavoy, on the Shloshim, I would like to share a few words of the amazing inspiration that I got and get daily from the wonderful memories and powerful stories that made my father so unique and part of the great legacy that he left us as a family, his Talmidim at large, and all of Klal Yisrael. When speaking about my father, it goes without saying that my mom, she should please God be healthy and well and may stream, is included and an integral part in all his achievements and endeavors. They were one team. My mother was an incredible Ezer Kenegdoi and exemplified the words of Rabbi Akiva, that all his Torah and achievements are hers. That in itself is a limud for all of us. Even though I mentioned this in my hesped, it's so powerful and describes my father's absolute essence that I would like to repeat it. Before my son Yitzchak started Yeshiva Gdoila, the advice my father gave him was, love everyone and everyone will love you. My dad loved everyone. They all mattered to him, even the smallest details of their life. My father could meet someone even 50 years later and remember them and the details of the previous encounter, and that's only because people were so important to him. One of my friends told me during the Shiva that his maid asked him on the day of the Levaya why there were so many cars at the shul. He told her that the rabbi had passed away, and he could see that she was visibly upset. He asked her, why are you so upset? So she said that whenever she went to the school to fetch the kids, if my father saw her, he would ask how she's doing and ask how she's feeling. For over 30 years, we had the privilege of having my mother's mother, Bobby Judith, living together with us in the same house. The way my father Zatzal treated her and the kavod he gave her was exceptional. He made it look so easy and normal that only now when I look back do I realize how unbelievable it actually was. In all my years of growing up, I have one vague memory of my father getting angry with me. He just didn't get angry or lose his temper. He was an Ohev Shalom and Roidev Shalom. Even if he had to be tough and put his foot down, afterwards he would go out of his way to make Shalom, and he wouldn't allow machlokes to prevail. Many people called to tell me that they too feel that they've lost their father with my father's passing. Even people who had no contact with him for years. He was an integral part of their life and the people they become and the families that were building. One of my neighbors in Harnof told me that his son-in-law, who is a former student of my father, who today is a big Talmid Chacham in his own right, who studied in many of Israel's finest yeshivas, he told his father-in-law that my father had the greatest influence on his life. My father was an exceptional human being who inspired all who came into contact with him. The way to hold on to inspiration, I believe, is if we take upon ourselves something small, learning from his ways, his midas, his amazing v'ahavta l'racha kamocha, and work on making it part of us. That way we will become better people and make the world a better place to live in, which was something that he always said, and will also be an eternal aliyah for his neshama. Maybe a Melis Yosef for my dear mother, the entire family, his Talmidim, congregants, and Klal Yisrael. Yehi Zichroi Baruch. My father was the most amazing Bal Midas. His love for people was unbelievable. He really loved people. It wasn't just it wasn't a show. It was like he really loved people, and people could. He made everybody feel like that. People would call, and they all felt they had a special relation with him. That's an unbelievable thing. And he was an expert in making people feel happy. Whether you were 5 years old or 100 years old, he knew how to make you happy, and he went out of his way to make people happy. It was the most. We think it's nothing. We take it for granted, but it's so not normal and so unbelievable that. And because of that, everybody loved him. And he was a Rosh Yeshiva, and he ran the school. And so very often you have conflicts. Very often you got to put your foot down. You got to be tough, but nevertheless. And he ran the show. He made the decisions, and if you felt you were doing something that was wrong, he wouldn't allow you to do it. But nevertheless, he went out of his way afterwards to make shalom and to make sure that the machlokes would not continue. It was the most amazing thing. So therefore, everybody loved my father. Even if you left on bad terms, he fixed it up afterwards. It didn't allow the animosity to remain. He went out of his way. He went out of his way to make shalom. Everybody that people called me from all over, people who haven't seen my father for years, and they all felt an amazingly close relationship with my father. They felt that they had a special relation, that he had a special relation with them. That's the most amazing thing. He made everybody feel special. Since my father had the most amazing memory, he could remember people that if you would meet somebody and met them again 50 years later, the guy would say to him, "Do you remember me?" He said, "Sure, I remember you." And he'd tell them the name, and he'd say, "I even remember that the last time we met, we were discussing this and this subject." And why did he remember that? Because he loved people so much, people important to him. So he remembered it. Because you can have the best memory in the world, but if it's not important to you, you're not going to remember it. And my father was a rabbi of a big congregation, and they had thousands of bar mitzvahs. He would meet somebody 40 years later, and he would remind the guy that your bar mitzvah was on this and this parasha, and this is the Dvar Torah I gave on your bar mitzvah. It was and why? Because people were talking to him. He went out of his way to make people happy. There are two types of leaders in the world. There's one leader that comes into the room and takes over and thunder and lightning and changes the world with thunder and lightning. There's another leader that leads with very quietly. My father was the most modest man. When he arrived in South Africa close to 60 years ago, he came to Glen Hazel. Glen Hazel was a desert, both physically and spiritually. There were very few houses there because it was a farmland, and Shomer Shabbos people. If there were one or two other Shomer Shabbos people, so it was a desert. And when he left 60 years later, he left an unbelievable Makom Torah, and everything was done humbly and quietly. He did his job one day at a time, and he changed the world by doing the right thing one day at a time, without any thunder, just in the most humble way. And he remained humble. My father was the most humble human being, and he was really humble. It wasn't a show. It was that he was. If you would compliment him, he was uncomfortable. He felt uncomfortable. He didn't deserve the compliment. So our parents had the most amazing relationship for close to 61 years, Baruch Hashem, and they were really. My father said that everything he had was because of my mother. She was really behind him and strong and encouraged him and his biggest fan. I mean, she loved. Whenever my father spoke, she loved it. She always went to hear him. She always went to hear him speak. She was proud of him. She loved him. She was proud of him. It was she said after his nefta, she said she was zoichet to live with an angel for 61 years. And she says the last 7 months were the best because she had him all to herself. They were locked together in the house. They couldn't go out, and so she said she didn't have to share him with the rest of the world. She had him all to herself for the last 7 months.